I hope you're all well. Here I am. Here you are. Here we are. Alright, that's not gonna work, so we'll just stick with this. Thank you for being here. If you're here, I'm gonna ramble for the first couple of seconds to see if folks get the notification. Right now, I am pulling out some headlines to go over, but I did share the source links in the description box. However, I may have a couple of things that I go over that don't match that I'll have to fix afterwards because I'm a few days behind from being sick and all of that. So I'm trying to go through my mailbox and grab the things that I saved to share with you guys. So give me a minute. Okay, let's see. Now, there is some things going on with my health that I may mention, but as usual, no part of this channel is to be taken as medical advice. The disclaimers are in the About tab and the description box of each video. So now that that's settled, we can kind of enjoy each other's company, I hope. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to go over, the first headline, let me grab something to drink. I think I saved right before I got sick, so it might be a little aged, but it does apply to a lot of things that we've talked about for the last several years on the channel. I'm sorry, you have to look at my messy winter hoodie collection there hanging on the door. I apologize. Let's see, can I do that? That's a little better. You can see pretty stuff that way. You don't have to look at just my ugly mug. Ooh, I gotta fix the comment section as well. Yeah, da, 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 da. Wrong one. There we go. Oh, there. I don't have my glasses, so I might be changing around positions and whatnot. Hello, I hope you're well. Okay, so I am gonna, throughout mention certain things that are going on and whatnot, but we're gonna go over a couple of headlines first. And I was sick, so a couple of these might be a little older, but they are, I hope, headlines that other people aren't really going over. I don't want to be that redundant. There's a lot of people that cover the same things here on YouTube, and you guys don't need that, and I don't need it. And then we are going to look at the Gospel of the Holy 12, because they're specifically, there's a squirrel right on that tree. Oh, they're so cute. They're specifically mentioning some things, again, that we have talked about, and I heard reference to it the other day, so we're going to take a look at that and see if that's true. Now, a couple of the headlines we are going to look at, the first one is Native news. So we're going to look at Native American news online because we've talked extensively about Arizona and the Hopi and the Grand Canyon, so much so that after we talked about that, they started restricting people from being there, saying that there was fires, but much like the Palestine crash, there was only one photo of something in the background, nothing in the foreground. I just don't really believe much of the news I see, so don't mind me. You look like Queen Eleanor from Brave. Don't know who that is. I hope she's not an ugly mug, but if she is, well, such is life. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions, right? What else was I going to talk about here today? Oh, there's a lot going on in the country. Obviously, we know this. Again, other people are covering that. I am not one of those people that tries to be popular or go with the trends, or else I know how to brand myself. I would have done that already. Well, I did start to do that in another community. That's one of the reasons I'm here doing what I do, is because of how corrupted certain things can make you without our realization. And I like to speak against those things, and so the system likes to shut me down, and people like to shut me down a lot. And I am going through some health issues, and once again, I'm thinking back throughout my life, my testimony, and we talk about targeted individuals, how they're beta tests, and now channels like Cinema Shogun are talking about it and talking about dues. People called us crazy. We pulled out the patents. We were right. And I think everyone needs to get ready for that, because in Venezuela, I think that's what they're using is frequency weapons on people. You know, the tear gas and the water, they start with the water from the fire trucks, and that doesn't work, and people still keep acting up, so then they go with something else, and then they go with something else. The sad thing is all this starts from agendas to kind of psych us out. That's why it's called like psychological operations. You psychologically win at war before a fist or a weapon or is even drawn. And you see, that's the key. Everybody's looking for guillotines and all this, that, and the other, but we have a lot of great resources here that if they fought an actual war here, they wouldn't be able to get to an access maybe at all or as easy. Right now, things are pretty easy to access, and it's after hearing things over the years and over the years and over the years, I believe I know why certain things are happening. Um, Lori and Chad Daybell, for example, the two Mormons who went to jail for allegedly doing harm, they had some really interesting things to say in their testimony. And if you look at his books, one of them, and I think I read this one and I talked about it, it's one of the things that woke me up. One of them that said that the best way to get to America, because you don't want to ruin the natural resources, you don't want to trash the land, and you don't want to have to do that cleanup, honestly, with bodies of people. Think about it. If you don't care about human life and you have no regard for it, then you don't want to clean up the mess that certain weapons would bring. And so the best way to attack us high would be through our own system from within, right? Trojan horse. I've been talking about that for ages. Well, if you put that with some facts, years ago, around 2015 or 16, there were reports of uniforms going missing, of state patrolmen and sheriffs and police. These things were going missing for a long time. It's my belief that people snuck in. We have imposters in every sector of our system. And so because of that, we are seeing attacks from within. A lot of food plants have had fires at them. A lot of arson allegedly is occurring. But is it arson or is it drones that are, specifically are capable of specifically targeting very centralized locations? So that's my belief. That's what's happening, is we're being attacked from within. I'm boiling water. Hold on. I will be right back. I forgot. Oh, that's funny. I apologize. Everybody left. That's okay. I don't mind. I always ramble at the beginning to give people a chance to get the notification and get here. But that also gets rid of people that don't actually want to be here. So, it is what it is. Thanks for waiting. I boil water when I don't have the money to buy spring water, but it doesn't obviously do the job for everything. Noticing a lot of white residue, a lot of chlorine in our water, and I think that's one of the problems I've been having with my skin and my body, because I'm allergic to chlorine. And if we have so much in our water that it's like causing like residue, then I need to do something to get rid of that. Boiling can help, and it obviously gets rid of bacteria, but that's not the best thing. Filters, you want some type of filtration system somewhere in your personal arsenal. All right, so we're going to start with, because we've talked extensively about Arizona on this channel and about the Hopi prophecies and about Native Americans possibly being a lost tribe or two. We're going to go over this headline that I don't think anyone else has went over, because I believe it's important and it's indicative of the times we are in. Thank you. We rent. It's not mine. Actually, I don't think we rent. I don't think anyone in the club pays for utilities or rent. I don't think they do that. They do favors for each other. There's a reason that some of the men have so much time on their hands that they can have multiple households and families. There's a lot going on that most people don't understand in this time. Some tea. What's up? Everyone likes sharing comments. What's up, Wayne? Okay, so real quickly, this is in the description box, and it's the source is from Native News Online, Warrior Journalism Defending Tribal Sovereignty, which we've talked about at length as well. I think that the Native Americans should be our friends. If you are a God-fearing person, a God-loving person, if you are someone who loves all the creations of God, like the land and the trees, then I think the Native Americans should be our best friends and our best allies. And if the news can be believed, any of it, they are being persecuted now as well. So we're going to talk about this link that I saw because it's indicative of the times that we are living in at this point, because I do believe that there is a type of Zionist agenda to make people believe that it is a certain time in history. However, they might be doing God's work, but and not even knowing it. It might actually be that time, right? So let's go over this link. Apache leader walks 60 miles to court hearing that will decide the fate of Sacred Oak Flat. This actually is applicable to everybody because this is what's happening in America. We have had some of our federal lands that are supposed to be conservatively, okay, anyway, they're supposed to be protected. That's the reason, supposedly, that they are government lands, is to protect these lands from being developed, overdeveloped, things like that, you know, to conserve some of our natural resources. However, now these things are being sold off. If you think of Trump's persona and things that are symbolic of him, he's not been the best businessman, but apparently he's good at liquidating and you know, recovering after bankruptcy. And I believe that's the president that he is. He is here to sell off America piece by piece. He is giving these celebrities photo ops in the White House. There's something wrong here. It is like America is its own Disneyland, but for adults. And that's why we're also going over that topic. If you understand how that place operates, you'll understand how our system as a whole operates, I do believe. So there's a reason for the madness, so to speak, on this channel. And I am going to talk about some other things as we go on here. So we are 13 minutes in. I'm going to get into this deeply now. Apache leader walks 60 miles to court hearing that will decide the fate of Sacred Oak Flat. Again, they're selling us off piece by piece. Federal lands, all these things they're not supposed to be doing. Everyone that did not want to be bought out, I'm sure that people in the Appalachians have had offers for the past 10 years, and the hangers-on and the ones who didn't want to leave, the old-timers, probably were moved out by intentional flooding. There, I said it. So the leader of an organization that has been so this does apply to us. You might think it doesn't apply to you because you're not a Native American, and I'm telling you, if you live in America, this applies to you. Because again, if you can understand what they're doing in a small scale to this piece of land, you will understand what's happening as a whole. The leader of an organization that has been facing off against, by Elise Wild, January 6th, 2026. Facing off against a foreign mining company, keep that in mind. China, years ago, when I was seeing specialists about my back, years ago, like 2015, China bought up like a lot of Stouffer's plants, okay? Remember that. So it says, the leader of an organization that has been facing off against a foreign mining company with designs on destroying a sacred indigenous site is walking more than 60 miles across Arizona to attend a court hearing that will decide the fate of 2,400 acres of federal public lands. Wensler Nosey Sr., San Carlos Apache, was founded Apache Stronghold in 2014 to oppose the transfer of the public lands in the Tonto National Forest. The organization has been locked in a 10-year battle with the mining giant Rizalton Copper. to protect the land, which includes Oak Flat, a mesa that has been the site of religious ceremonies for tribes in the region since time immemorial. And that's key too to religious freedom. The Constitution is being attacked item by item by item. People need to recognize what's happening. They're not coming out and saying we're under martial law. They're just enacting everything that's under it. They're not coming out and saying they've sold out all America or that we don't have a government anymore. They're just doing it piece by piece. Do you see what I mean? We're the ones who have to critically think and bring it together and say, oh, as a whole, this is what's going on. Okay, so just it's the same with disclosure. They're disclosing and stuff now. They're not making an announcement saying, hey, this is disclosure, because they don't want everybody to know the truth bits. So they disclose it without telling you they're disclosing it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. It's been locked in this legal battle for 10 years with this copper company to protect their religious ceremonial land. So it's not just, right? It's not just federal protected land. It's their religious ceremonial land. The lands are also home to endangered and threatened species such as ocelots and Arizona hedgehog cacti. Tomorrow, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals will hear oral arguments on whether to lift an injunction imposed in August 2025 to pause the transfer to the mining company. If the court, and we can actually check on this to see what happened now, if the court rules in favor of the mining company, the land transfer would begin immediately. On Sunday, January 4th, Nosey Sr. set out on his walking journey from Oak Flat to the Sandra Day O'Connor. Sandra Day? They named a courthouse after an actress? Oy, what is going on? See what I said about Disneyland? How we're basically a giant Disneyland? Sandra Day O'Connor, U.S. Courthouse in Phoenix. In a letter issued to the media and supporters, the former tribal chairman stated the trek was inspired by a spiritual encounter. Sounds kind of like me wanting to walk all the way to Arizona. In a prayer pilgrimage. Below is the letter in full. So this is the letter that this tribesman wrote on January 3rd. Good afternoon, all my family, friends, relatives, and people. I come to you in this moment in time, knowing we all have been born into from our parents and those before. We all know those before us suffered from a great evil who tried to destroy them. This evil still exists today. Every day it works to control us and make its way to have us deceive our own children's lives, like our parents did. They're just doing what our parents should have done. They're doing what we should be doing. They're living how we should be living. And we shouldn't be punishing people for having differences like that than us. If you want to live outside of the system, in your own way, there should be no crime in that. It's real simple, common sense. I don't understand. I'm never going to understand what's happening in that way. I just won't. So let's give him respect and finish his letter, and then we'll check and see what happened to this in court. Right now we're discussing a Native American who walked 60 miles to court to defend his family religious ceremonial lands that's also supposed to be fairly protected, but they are wanting to sell it off to a mining company, a foreign mining company. That is the first headline we are looking at, and then we are going to read a little bit from the Holy 12, the Gospel of the Holy 12. So, moving on. Through every passing generation, every day it works to control us and make its way to have us deceive our own children's lives by them not being told the truth. We teach them to live and embrace a system of capitalism that we surely know won't secure the future. Through every passing generation, it clearly shows it has failed. From the birth of Europe to their unauthorized arrival here and the taking of the East Coast, wrongfully establishing their 13 colonies, 13 bloodlines, guys. They then turned towards the West, breaking all treaties that were dishonest from their inception. That's right, because when they came, they did make agreements with the natives, establishing a dishonest trust system, allowing them to take more and more. Their human ideology, their way to survive through their economic engine, has been a disaster. It takes and it takes and it gives nothing back. No care for any kind of life, no care for the next generation. It's about living for now and being greedy and destroying communities of people with their power of capitalism. Since the beginning, through colonization and capitalism. Now remember, he's a Native American. We're putting ourselves in their shoes, right? Let's have some empathy on this channel. We're an adult, we're a spiritually mature channel that is still growing, each one of us. It's about, it takes and it takes and gives nothing back, no care for any kind of life, no care for the next generation. It's about living for now and being greedy and destroying communities of people with their power of capitalism. Since the beginning, through colonization and capitalism, many here around the world have suffered. People cried then and still today for a better day and still ask God, what have I done? The political agenda of capitalism is to put fear in each of us, pushing each of us towards the illusion that Mother Earth and ourselves are useless. From fear, we lose hope. The journey of spirituality and everything on Mother Earth becomes disposable. Our Mother Earth is the timeline to everything. It gives us the water of life. It gives us the oxygen of life. It gives us the food of life. And it blesses us with life for our children and those yet to come. It saddens me when this country does not prioritize all the sacred elements that give us life. It saddens me to witness that some no longer care to keep God's greatest gift alive. From a spiritual understanding, our love for one another is critical. Our morals to make right decisions is critical, and the love for our Mother Earth should be embedded forever. We have all been taught not to recognize our mother and forced into a life to be colonized. We were blessed in the beginning with the tools of how to survive in the world that provides for all of us. This evil took those tools away and taught us how to be selfish, greedy, and passive, assimilate our minds and hearts to believe in capitalism. For what I have witnessed, I now can say I see as what my father, my grandfather, and great-grandfather witnessed before me. Capitalism demands your loyalty to destroy every moral ethic, spiritual belief in God's way of life. I too know who cares and protects what God and Jesus had warned the world about. This is a Native American talking about God, Jesus, and the Mother Earth, right? You can support ICE. You can support Trump. That's your right under the Constitution of America, but it's also your God-given right to use your free will with your agency. So that is your right, but I can disagree with you. I understand the concept of illegal immigration and illegal Americans or illegal immigrants. There is a way to go about things, but they should not be taking Americans. Let me ask you this. If they're undocumented, how do they know who to grab? If they don't have any papers and there is no paper trail, how do they look them up, know their names, know their addresses, know where to go? Yeah, that's common sense. We should all try to use some. Ask some questions. Don't just blindly believe because you're told something. If they're undocumented, illegal immigrants and they have no paperwork, then how are they knowing who to get? How do they know where to get them from if there is no paper trail to follow? Use some common sense there, Mike G. You're not hearing me. You didn't answer the question. You won't answer the question. You just want to be argumentative. I'm going to finish this letter from this very wise Native American here. He was the first. He should not have to go for anything. Those people shouldn't have to go, but they want their land. They don't want anyone standing up for that land. This is why I'd like to go protect it. I don't believe everything I'm told. That's not true. Okay, I'm going to finish reading now. For what I have witnessed, I can now say I see what my father, my grandfather, and great-grandfather witnessed before me. Capitalism demands your loyalty to destroy every moral ethic, spiritual belief, and God's way of life. I too know who cares and protects what God and Jesus had warned the world about. I will not be one who is loyal to capitalism. You will not fool me. If we really think it through, from those who say that capitalism will solve our problems, and when we actually understand it, disaster will occur. Billions of gallons of water can remain forever. No contamination to the environment, no climate changes. One of the oldest religious ceremonies before the beginning of time continues, etc. The United States clearly violated procedures and laws and ignored not only the Native Americans, but also the state of Arizona and the people in this country. Their decision to give full exemptions from the law has opened the door forever for corporations to follow suit. America, our civilization, is in trouble, and it needs your attention. As you and I today, as did our ancestors, had encountered centuries ago, we are also in that moment. We cannot lose our Mother Earth. If she is lost, there is no life. The sustainability of the Mother Earth ensures our children's children will live. So preserving Mother Earth today will guarantee future generations. This Native American finishes by saying, I will be departing from Oak Flat on Sunday, January 4th at 11 a.m., and I will be walking and a little jogging to arrive in downtown Phoenix to attend the court hearings. It's the Arizona Reform Mining Coalition, ITCA, San Carlos Apache Tribe, and Lopez Kinsey Burdett cases versus the U.S., which begin at 10 a.m. on January 7th. For those who do not know me well, I had a spiritual encounter and must travel in this spiritual way. I ask each of you, if possible, to make ceremonial fire, light a candle, or be in prayer. The decision of the federal judges will weigh heavy on the future for water, environment, religion, and the ability to give federal exemptions to corporations without following legal policies. Use and Creator, hear my prayers as I make this journey to encounter many ugly obstacles, but also witness the beauty of all life. I will let no fear distract me, for all the beautiful spirits will be in all four directions. Signed, Wensler Nosey Sr. Okay. Now, how do we find out what happened? Let me see if there's an update. Oh, I want to see what the title is now. Look up an update real quick so we can see how they ruled. Sacred Oak Flat hearing. Hold, please. I don't have my pillow under me, so it's a little high. Is there no decision yet? Future. Pivot 3. Oh, wow, there's 3 lawsuits happening at the same time. This is bad, guys. This is bad. They've sold off America to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder, in a lot of cases with the food at least, is China. This is just bad. It's not going to be good for anybody. It doesn't matter, like, what we think or our opinions are. It's just not going to be good. Where's the actual link, guy? You're not showing me. Come on now. Oh, jeez Louise. Holy ad central. We're going to skip that. Okay, so that is very indicative of the times we are in and how the land is going. We've talked about this at length and how that one show was talking about REM, but they really meant rare earth minerals, not sleep. January 9th, 3 lawsuits against Oak Flat land transfer get their day in court. What's the decision? Hearing decision. I should have wrote that or typed that. I'm still, okay, so this person, hey, Moldy Bones, what's up? I'm still angry at them losers cut the path through the Arizona Center to discuss global warming. What a joke. Laughing in our face while killing our planet and livelihood. I didn't know that the cord. That's ridiculous. That's kind of weird. Strange. I'm not reading your comments and I'll just delete you. But I don't do that, just because I disagree with you. Maybe you'll learn something here that's, outside of your chosen paradigm that you seem to be stuck in. You worship Trump all you want. He's not even the real one that's controlling any of this. He's a figurehead. Like Vince McMahon. The latest developments on Oak Flat. Chi Bill Gottlieb case involved. The core conflict is over. Like, what happened is crucial, potentially allowing the fight continues with hopes for legislation. Okay, so I don't think they've gotten a hearing yet, which, how long does something like this usually take? I'm not sure myself. Ruled against, oh, courthouse news. Okay, this is courthouse news. Western Apaches return to Ninth Circuit to defend Holy Land. Plaintiffs say new Supreme Court precedent reviews old religious freedom claims. Right. Again, they're also attacking the Constitution. So if you believe in, like, the Constitution and you believe in, that we have a procedure here into immigrants, doing things the legal way, which I'm all for that. But I'm not for, like, beating people into submission. Like, none of that is okay. And it's not okay to do it to people who are citizens. It's not okay to lie to the American public about who you're actually taking away. None of that's okay. For the third time in 5 years, Western Apaches appeared before the Ninth Circuit to prevent the construction of a copper mine set to swallow their ancestral Holy Land in a 2-mile wild crater. Oh my God. That's probably what the Grand Canyon is. Though the government says its hands are tied by an act of Congress mandating that the patch of land in eastern Arizona be transferred to the private mining company Resolution Copper. San Carlos Apaches and a coalition of environmentalists argued Wednesday that a preliminary injunction is required to address serious flaws in the U.S. Forest Service final environmental impact statement. Before a 3-judge panel, San Carlos Apache tribe argued the Forest Service ignored expert testimony regarding the environmental effects of mining waste. You see what I mean? They say they can't care about global warming, and I'm not saying I agree with that terminology, but they say they care about that, but then they go and do things like this. Everything is the opposite at this time. Everything they say is inverted. It is the exact opposite of what they are telling you in almost every sector. It's the time of inversion, where they're calling evil good and good evil. Okay. Statistically speaking, a pipeline failure is a near certainty. Dam failure is a question of when, which we've seen over and over again. It's happening now from all of the dams that they put up many, many years ago. So he's saying all these things, will happen again. I'm trying to look for their decision. The Ninth Circuit ruled against the plaintiffs in 22 and again in 24. In May, they declined to hear the appeal. Now a group of Apache women, led by Goyen Brown Lopez, brings the same argument, reasoning that a recent Supreme Court decision has changed the legal landscape. In Muhammad versus Taylor, the High Court ruled public schools must allow parents to opt for their children out of lessons including LGBTQ inclusive themes if those lessons interfere with the children's religious upbringings. Representing Brown Lopez, attorney Miles Coleman said the case sets a new precedent for preventing objective religious interference. So they're saying, if you ruled this way about this, then you need to feel the same way about the land because it's also religious ceremonial land. It's also a holy land. Doesn't look like there has been any decision reached as of yet. Okay, let's see the other little bit of weird news, if there is any more that I sent myself to go over with you guys, and then we're going to look into this reading because, again, I'm falling into things that apply to us and things we've been talking about and studying for years. Real quick, we're going to get into a bishop and what he thinks about what's going on with ICE right now. This is from NPR. This is national. Amid ice clashes, New Hampshire bishop urges clergy to prepare their wills. This is kind of, again, indicative of the times we are in. You don't have to be religious or Catholic to hear this message. So I just want to see, what he said. Get out of here. My dad used to love NPR. I got on the radio with him once. A call-in show. However, a lot of people don't like them now. Their funding has been taken, just like ours. Okay, a New Hampshire Episcopal bishop's stark warning to his clergy is resonating across the nation, drawing fervent praise from some and rebukes from others. I'll tell you why I don't think this is a good idea once I read it to you, because I don't agree with everything that, people do just because they're religious or Catholic or hold my same, views on faith. Let's make that abundantly clear as well. Bishop Rod Hertzfield was one of several community and faith leaders gathered in Concord, New Hampshire for a vigil for Renee Good, just days after she was ended by an immigration and customs enforcement agent. Hertzfield called out the cruelty, the injustice, and the horror unleashed in Minneapolis. Let's see what else. I've asked them to get their affairs in order to make sure they have their wills written, he said, because it may be that now is no longer the time for statements, but for us with our bodies to stand between the powers of this world and the most vulnerable. Hirschfield's comments went viral quickly. Okay, so I just want to cover that bit, what he said. I would agree with him in one sense. I would agree about the times that we are in. Obviously, him saying this is very indicative of the times we are in. Why, again, these people tell us the opposite and do the opposite, and why I don't agree with him. Spiritually speaking, and this is why I don't vote, and this is kind of why I would advise others not to. Not only does it not matter, but spiritually speaking, it binds you. Sorry, my bangs are like wanting to come out. Spiritually speaking, it binds you. When you talk about spiritual warfare, in short, you're signing your name under somebody else's name. It's almost like being married. So every decision that person or individual makes for the next 4 years, you're saying you agree with them, that you endorse them. So you're co-signing for all the things that they do. So spiritually, it's a bad idea, because all things begin where you cannot see them spiritually and manifest physically. So it's my opinion that if you sign something like that and vote, you're giving away your sovereignty right there, in short, okay? And remember, we're also in a time when God has kind of said, okay, you can have what you want. He's removed his hands, right? And so when you're doing something in this time, even in the Bible, it says, if you live by the sword, you will die by the sword. Think of that with everything. You are participating when you do certain things. You don't have to actually be there, but if you are a part of the system in a certain way, you're co-signing on it, okay? Like, say our monetary system, a lot of the money now is coming from corrupt and illegal acts, things that go against our Constitution, our constitutional rights, and the rights of other human beings, because it's being propped up by selling other human beings. You don't have to believe me, it's everywhere. This trafficking thing is everywhere, and you can see it if you but open your eyes. You don't need anyone to tell you this. I'm a dumb person and I can see it. I don't need someone to announce it for me. What this bishop is suggesting by making your wills, you are basically signing an agreement with death and saying, okay, I'm ready to die now. I'm giving all my stuff back to whomever, it's going wherever. Thank you. She's a beautiful woman. I appreciate that. Somebody the other day said Sigourney Weaver. That's so funny. Hold on. Excuse me. So if you sign your will now, God forbid, you're like a 30-year-old, you're basically, spiritually speaking, you're making and coming into agreement with the spirit of death, saying, I am ready to go, right? The Bible says, if you ask, you shall receive. Signing a physical will, putting your name on it, you are saying, you are co-signing, I'm ready to die. And then he literally says to put your bodies in between ice, and other people. I'm not gonna condone violence, and I'm not going to agree with the statement nor disagree, because I believe we should all be down there in Arizona doing that. We should make a wall with our bodies. God told me to make a wall of light of your bodies, and we should be protecting that land. We should be doing that as a group. If you are a God-fearing, God-loving person, that is what we should be doing. If you don't believe me, pray on it if you're a praying person and see what you receive in your heart. And we don't all have the same purpose or the same mission. You could just ask, God, is this something you're telling people to do, or you feel like, people should be doing? Certain people, right? Okay, so that's why I don't agree with that, but it's very telling of the times that we are in. They're basically encouraging people to go ahead and become martyrs and to martyr themselves. I was looking for some chapstick because of my lips. I've been sick and everything's dry. My skin is terrible. Everything's just bad. But I appreciate you being here. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at, since we're a little into this, we're going to look at the reading I wanted to check out. Okay. So this link is also in the description box. We're going to kind of skim it, see what it's about, see what's in here, and go from there, because I only heard a few small bits. This is the Gospel of the Holy 12. Now, the idea of this, I often read what's called ancient Christian-related writings, right? But none of them are canonical. Well, most of them aren't. We go back to like the original verses and this, that, and the other. I've shared this site with you many times. The Gospel of the Holy 12 is allegedly something directly from the 12 apostles. But they called the people who followed it heretics. So doesn't that make you curious? Is it actually by the Holy 12? Why would they call these people heretical who follow it? And it also brings to mind, we know that the victors are the ones who write the history books, right? The ones who win. And we know that sometimes they tell us certain things happen just to villainize certain groups of people so that they are hated and persecuted as well. If you look back through history, though, every group has been persecuted at this point in time. There really isn't anyone innocent, and there isn't anyone who hasn't suffered in that way. There's always an outcast, and tribes are the same way. There's always someone who, and we don't like people that are different than us. We don't welcome them into our tribe. And my suggestion, you don't have to necessarily welcome them into your tribe. You should have a tribe of like-minded people. You should have a community of like-minded people. But you should be able to trade and do business with and even learn from, like the old philosophers did, learn from these other tribes who have different ideas and live in a different way they do, right? So the Gospel of the Holy 12, the idea is that this man Origen, Origen, he is an ancient Catholic, or Christian Catholic, and was he a Catholic? I'm trying to remember. He's ancient, though. That's why Origen, we get that word from his name. It is the origin of certain things, and his commentary is throughout most of these ancient Christian texts. So his opinion seems to have held a lot of weight back in the day. And so he made reference to the Gospel of the Holy 12 in his writings, and it has been referenced elsewhere. But when they reference it, they say that it's heretical. And I'd like to know why that is. Did I get eyeliner in the wrong spot? I might have been rubbing my eye. My allergies are off the chain. So we're going to take a look at it. I got the link posted, and it's free to read. So this is translated from the original Aramaic by Reverend G.J.R. Ousley and Jim Brooks. So it starts, it looks like, with an intro. There doesn't seem, okay, so prologue. Let's go ahead and read the intro, and then there's a prologue. We'll skim the rest, but the intro is usually, it gives us an idea of what's coming. The all-pitying love of our Savior not only embraces mankind, but also the lower creatures of God, that's in quotations, shares with us of the one breath of life, and with us on the one road of ascent to that which is higher. Never has the providence, capital P, with which the all-merciful, capitals, watch over the animals, quote, unendowed with reason, end quote, the all-merciful. So God watches over all the animals, it's saying, that don't have the ability to reason, as well as over reason-endowed man. Been more impressively brought home to us than in the saying of Jesus. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings, and not one of them is forgotten before God? So right there, they're talking about anyone who doesn't understand the verbiage and rhetoric they use. They're talking about how we have discovered now that God cares for all living creatures, not just mankind. Okay? Most people don't like to hear that. That's why I lose viewership sometimes. You're not supposed to love the earth. You're a pagan. And then pagans, oh, well, you love God and Christ. Forget you. No group wants me, and that's okay. I mean, whatever. I just want to get the truth out to you guys about the situations that are occurring. How were it possible to think otherwise than the Savior, quote, would have had pity and compassion on the creatures who must bear their pain in silence? Would it not seem to us like a blasphemy if we were to hear it said that Jesus or Mary would have beheld without pity or succor the ill treatment of helpless animals? Nay, certainly when our Savior brought redemption to a world sunk in selfishness, hard-heartedness, and misery, and proclaimed the gospel of an all-embracing love, there was surely a share in this redemption for all suffering creatures, since when man opened his heart to this divine love, there was no room left for pitiless hardness towards the other creatures of God who have, like man, been called into life with the capacity of enjoyment and of suffering. So here again, they are going over the fact that all creatures are beloved by God, and that when you come into the knowledge of God, you then have an all-encompassing love for all of God's creatures. There is no room for hard-heartedness once you are quote-unquote saved. And I'm paraphrasing again. I'm translating this old verbiage. How were it possible to think otherwise than this? Okay, Okay. They bear the marks of the Redeemer who practices this all-pitying love, and how little it is that the minimum of Christian compassion for helpless creatures demands of us, only to inflict on them no torture, and to help them when in trouble, or appeal to us for succor, and when of necessity we take their life, to let it be a speedy death, with the least pain a gentle sleep. But alas! So again, he's saying how important the creatures are, and that we shouldn't be able to bear to see them tortured, let alone torture them. And if they are in pain and suffering, that would be the only reason we would take their life, would be because we have pity on them. Okay. But alas, how little we are penetrated with these divine lessons of mercy and compassion. How many grievous tortures are inflicted on helpless creatures under the pretense of science, or to gratify an unnatural appetite, or cruel lusts, or the promptings of vanity. I'm going to stop right there and add my own commentary for a minute here. So again, he's saying that most people are inflicting pain and suffering on helpless creatures for the pretense of science. Now remember, this was written a very long time ago. He's talking about science to gratify an unnatural appetite. So he's saying that if people lust after animals, that it's unnatural. Again, this is what he is saying, and we are looking through a window in time way back to see how certain things were viewed and talked about. Because again, we are further away from truth now because time has passed, and you get further away from certain things. That's why they have to be concealed every now and again, because they are covered up, even just through naturally the passing of time. Okay. So again, if they knew this back then, if they knew not to torture animals, we have slaughterhouses that are insane. Like, they use gas chambers. I had no idea they used gas chambers in the food production system. Not only is that outrageously torturous, But can you imagine the people who are consuming those gases by eating those animals? That's not good in any sense, but that you're paying the price for participating in that act. You might not have ended the animals, but you're participating in their pain and suffering. You are, in essence, consuming their pain and suffering. This is why I believe, spiritually speaking, certain people will act a certain way after consuming certain things. They say it raises your blood pressure, and I know this is a fact because I used to work in healthcare. I'm not giving medical advice, that's just a fact. They say that this happens. And again, there's a lot of true crime channels out there. Go see all them. Go report all them if you're going to have a problem with me. I have all my disclaimers and all my T's crossed and I's dotted. But anyways, if you participate in that and you consume that, you're consuming the emotions that they had at the time that they passed. This is why immediately following the act of consuming, you'll see certain people get very angry, or they will even flip out, because that's how it affects you and you're participating. And I lost viewers again, and that's okay. It's gonna happen. Not everybody is ready for these messages now, and they weren't ready for them then. You have to understand that certain groups of Christians were persecuted unto death, and there weren't any more after that. And if there were any left remaining, they didn't tell anyone. The I don't want to disrespect them and dispronounce their name, but we just did a video on them. I think it's the Carthers. They were wiped out of existence. They were a little Gnostic. The Essenes are gone. They were vegetarian, vegans, most of them. You have to ask yourself why the system was after them so desperately, because we know now at this point that most people the system goes after, that means, that person is probably doing some of the right things. I don't mean that for people on the screen. I'm not talking about Andrew Tate or any of them people, okay? Again, everything you're seeing on the screen, they're not going to show you if anyone else resurrects. They're not going to show you the truth. They want you in fear. They want you to feel these things. Okay, so moving on. As an aid to a higher Christianity, these fragments of a fuller gospel are now presented, giving us the feminine tenderness as the masculine strength of the perfect Christ. All those terms were capitalized. The greater and more important portion of these reminiscences have formed the groundwork and basis of various teachings issued by the Order of the Order of Atonement since 1881, when it was incepted. The Order of Atonement, and the word was separated like that and capitalized. We're gonna have to look that up. The Order of Atonement. Hold, please. I'm really curious about that now. Give me 1 second. I can have it pulled up and we can refer to it if we need to. But maybe I can get a quick definition so we know. The Order of Atonement primarily refers to the elaborate prescribed rituals for the biblical Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, in Leviticus 16. I'm talking about the order, though. Hold on. But maybe they're gonna... Let's see if that works. The Order of Atonement, with those words separated, but it's atonement, refers to the sequence of events and theological steps involved in achieving reconciliation with God, particularly through Jesus Christ's atonement, encompassing his suffering in Gethsemane and crucifixion to overcome sin and death, leading to resurrection. Key components of the Order of Atonement. The offense is the sin, estrangement, the atoning act, and it says there it's Christ's sacrifice, but again, we've been lied to. They want us lazy and thinking once saved, always saved, and they want us thinking one little Jesus prayer one day of our life, and that's it. Spirituality is work. It takes real physical work to grow your spirit and to grow that heart. Loving your enemies is hard. I know this. I know this because I love mine, and it's a conscious choice I make every day. Pre-existence, Jesus chosen as the Redeemer. Gethsemane, he takes upon himself the sins of the world. Crucifixion, death on the cross. And understand, and I'm going to offend a lot of people here, The Bible is also, spiritually speaking, very esoteric in nature. And a lot of people today don't understand that. They don't understand things they can't see, touch, or feel. That's how lost to materialism a lot of people are in today's civilization as a whole. A lot of us, right? We have blind spots, and this is why we need each other to point them out and act as mirrors to each other. But not everybody likes mirrors in that way. Esoterically speaking, it is believed that everybody has to go through that journey, not just Christ. That we all have to have the hero's journey in our own lives and participate in our own repentance and salvation. And at this point, yes, almost everyone has to repent unless you are a tribal person living off the grid and you have never ever harmed anything, anyone, and you've never consumed death. There's no one like that on the earth. Everyone here is guilty at this point. Okay, so that's what the atonement of God is. Hold on, I'm looking for where we are. Since 1881, when it was incepted, are now for the first time given in their entirety, throwing additional light on the real doctrine of Jesus. It says Jesus because it's Latin. Or elucidating of the contents of the canonical Gospels as commonly received, retaining the translation of the AV wherever possible or sufficiently clear. It will be for the church, capital, of the future, capital, when revising the entire scriptures, to give in its primary place the original and complete gospel of the Holy Christ, using the others for a confirmation from 4 other witnesses, that every word may be established to them who are not in a condition to receive the goodness, purity, and truth. So again, not everybody is ready to hear about some of these things. And so, when people leave or people unsubscribe, I'm not upset about it. Not everybody is at the same place in their journey. Like all other inspired writings, but not necessarily infallible in every word, these writings from within the veil, capital V, must be taken on their own internal evidence of a higher teaching, capital H, capital T. For inspiration of the Spirit, capital S, no more necessarily implies infallibility than the divine breath of life in-breathed by man necessarily implies freedom from all accidents, diseases, or miseries incidental to mortal life. So again, they're saying there is no word that is infallible, because man is given the breath of life, but we still sometimes, that doesn't mean we are free from accidents, disease, or miseries, that apply to mortal life. So again, balance in our mental status. It is a faithless and perverse generation as of old that seeks for signs, and to them saith the Spirit, quote unquote, there shall be no sign be given. For were the very writers of this gospel raised from the dead, and were they to testify to their authorship, they would not be believed. Unbelieving critics would still ask for a sign, and more they were given, the more they would ask in the hardness of their hearts. The sign is the truth, the pure in heart, they shall see it. So once it's saying there are things that you need to understand in the gospel that it hasn't been taught right, and this is in 1881. Snoogans, don't know what that is. She looks like Jay from JJ and Silent Bob. Yeah, okay. You're entitled to your opinion. Okay, the Gospel of the Holy 12. In the name of the Holy, Amen. Prologue. Herewith begin the Gospel of the perfect life of Yesu Maria, the Christ, the offspring of David, through Joseph and Mary after the flesh, and the Son of God, through divine love and wisdom after the Spirit. Prologue. From the age of ages is the eternal thought, and the thought is the word, and the word is the act. See how each thing leads, the thought leads to the word, and the word leads to the act. And these 3 are one in the eternal law, and the law is with God, and the law proceeds from God. All things are created by law, right? Natural law, and without it not anything created that exists. In the word is life and substance, the fire and the light. The love and the wisdom are one for the salvation of all, And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness concealeth it not. The word is one life-giving fire, which shining into the world becometh the fire and light of every soul that entereth into the world. I am in the world, and the world is in me, and the world knoweth it not. I come to my own house, and my friends receive me not. But as many as receive and obey, to them is given the power to become the sons and daughters of God, even to them who believe in the holy name, who are born not of the will of the blood and flesh, but of God. And the Word is incarnate and dwelleth among us, whose glory we beheld, full of grace. Behold the goodness and the truth and the beauty of God. That's the prologue. The Gospel of the Holy 12, Lection 1, the parentage and conception of John the Baptist. Okay, so we're going to skip through and see some of these sections, and we're going to see like what applies to us, like what we would do here and there. We don't need to look at the parentage and bloodlines, at least not right now. The Immaculate Conception of Jesus the Christ. We will look at that, but I don't know if we're going to look at it right now. The Nativity of John the Baptist. And again, esoterically speaking, it's showing you how there are archetypes and how we are expected to, for the purpose of our salvation, participate in our own salvation and go through our own hero's journey like Christ did. Nativity of Jesus. And again, I'm looking for a couple sections that kind of apply to us here and now. And we will go through all of this eventually on the channel. But there's the time for all things. The childhood and youth of Jesus the Christ. He delivereth a lion from the hunters. We may go to that. Listen, love, are you dressed to impress or just impressed that you're dressed? I'm impressed that I'm dressed today. Thanks for it being okay. It's freezing here. The heat is like jacked up. It's still freezing. I've got my stuff on, and I put some rosemary in my hair. Everything is dry. I'm not a winter gal. And I've got stuff going on with my health, which I may talk about at certain times today. I want to see what else is here. I would like to look at Jesus's childhood, but real quick, we're going to go the preaching of John the Baptist. We're trying to get to the actual gospel part to see what is different from what we have been told. The first sermon in the synagogue of Nazareth, the calling of Andrew and Peter, the teaching of cruelty in animals, the two rich men. That's funny. Hold on, I'm trying to see what this has in it. Okay. We're going to read a little bit of this part because, again, it applies to things we've been studying on the channel as a whole. And we'll go through. And again, a lot of people, they're not going to want to see this or hear this, especially in America. And it's really sad that there's so much bloodlust in our current society. This is Lection 14. If the link's in the description box for anyone that wants to follow along and not just kind of listen. I'm sorry my voice isn't as pleasant today because I have been sick. I'm still taking the Mucinex. You have a nice smile. Keep it up. Thank you for making me smile. I appreciate that. Dope. The calling of Andrew and Peter, the teaching of cruelty and animals, the two rich men. So that's what's in lection or section 14. Now Herod the Tetrarch, being reproved by John the Baptist, his brother Philip's wife, and for all the evils which he had done, added yet above this all that he shut up John in prison. And Jesus began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And as he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, now remember, this is allegedly written by the Holy 12, all right? And they're telling you in this section how Andrew and Peter were called to Jesus and to the ministry and everything. And then he's going to talk about cruelty to animals. So Jesus began to preach once John the Baptist was in jail and say, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." And as he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon, called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And they straightway forsook their nets and followed him. And going on from thence, he saw other two brethren, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in a ship with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them. And they immediately left their nets and the ship and their father, and followed him. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in the synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. This is in red. And the fame of his miracles went throughout all Syria. That might be a link to another. Oh, no, it's not. And they brought unto him many sick people that were taken with diverse diseases and torments, and those which were lunatic. We got that word from the moon, from Luna, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them all. And there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee and Decapolis, and from Jerusalem, and from Judea, and from beyond Jordan. And as Jesus was going with some of his disciples, he met with a certain man who trained dogs to hunt other creatures. And he said to the man, "Why dost thou do this?" And the man said, "By this I live, and what profit is there to any in these creatures?" He's saying, what are they worth? This is how I make my money. These creatures are weak, but the dogs are strong. And Jesus said, "You lack wisdom and love. Lo, every creature with which God has made, its end and purpose, who can say what good is there in it, or what profit to thyself or mankind?" He's saying, what right do you have to even try to put value on something that God has made? You can't do it. It's not our place. And for the living, behold the fields yielding their increase, and the fruit-bearing trees and the herbs. What needest thou than these which honest work for thy hands will not give to thee? Now Jesus is saying, you don't need to train animals to hunt other animals. You see how abundant the earth is. You see how it reproduces and multiplies. He's saying, go work the earth. In this, it will profit you, to feed you, basically, he's saying. And the man marveled and left off training the dogs to hunt and taught them to save life rather than destroy. And he learned of the doctrines of Jesus and became his disciple. And behold, there came to him two rich men, and one said, "Good master," but he said, "Call me not good, for one alone is all good, and that is God." And the other said to him, "Master, what good thing shall I do and live?" Jesus said, "Perform the law and the prophets." He answered, "I have performed them." Jesus said, "Go now and sell everything that you have and divide it with the poor, and follow me." But this saying pleased him not. See, we've heard that one. And the Lord said to him, "How sayest thou that thou hast performed the law and the prophets? Behold, many of thy brethren are clad in filthy rags, dying from hunger, and thy house is full of much goods, and there goeth from it not unto them." So he's saying, you're full of pride. You're saying that you commit, you have been obedient, but you've not. The one law, Christ is trying to say, he's trying to condense everything to get people to understand, because not everyone does it this time. Not everyone is going to, and he knows that. And he tells certain parables to hide things from certain people. And again, we should understand why that is. We've seen that before. Jesus isn't the first to have done that. And definitely wasn't the last. People do it all the time in politics. People do it now to avoid censorship, right? So there we're learning that he's telling the guy, you're full of yourself. You're saying that you've been obedient, but you haven't. You have all these goods, you have all this wealth, but they're still poor in the streets. You're obviously not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not clothing the naked, because he said they're in filthy rags. You're not clothing the naked. You're not feeding the poor. So you've not met the law, right? And he said unto Simon, "It is hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven, for the rich care for themselves and despise them that have not. Remind you of anyone today? Remind you of where we're living today? That man didn't like what Jesus said. He said, but I am fulfilling the law. What did Trump say? He said, have you ever repented? He said, I don't know what that means. Said you're sorry for something to God. No, I try to avoid having to say I'm sorry, but not by not doing anything wrong. Anyone who thinks they never do anything wrong is wrong just by saying that alone. You're in error. This said, so right there, Jesus said, the rich hate the poor. The rich hate the poor. Jesus knew this. He said that's why they have a hard time getting into heaven. That's different than the biblical parable, because he says it flat out. The rich hate the poor. And this is why the rich can't get into heaven, because they hate. They do not love. And if you do not love, you're also not meeting the law. You're not feeding and clothing the poor. You're not caring for the widow. You're not caring for the orphan. We're selling people. And that's the thing. The corruptors that control everything, they want us as guilty as them. They want us participating in this system. And it's built on pain and suffering of animals and people. Poor don't care much. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you mean by that. Lection 15, the healing of the leper and the man with palsy. So we're going to continue moving on to see what else is in here. The calling of Matthew in the parable of the old wine bottle. Should we look at that for purposes of reincarnation to see if that actually what it looks like? Let's take a look at it. I got some time today, and it's freezing. The dogs have had their snack. I'm trying not to take them out as much as, I usually do. So this is the calling of Matthew in the parable of the new wine in old bottles, which some people say refers to reincarnation. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm saying I want to investigate further. And after these things, he went forth and saw a tax gatherer named Levi sitting at the receipt of custom. And he said unto him, follow me. And he left all and rose up and followed him. And Levi made him a great feast in his own house. And there was a great company of tax gatherers and of others that sat down with them. But the scribes and the Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, why do you eat and drink with these publicans and these sinners? Okay, now remember who the scribes and Pharisees are. Christ told us the scribes were liars, right? And Jesus answering said unto them, they that are whole don't need a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance, right? So he's saying, I'm not here for the righteous. I'm here to tell the sinners, right? The people who are righteous are already living by God's law, or at least trying to. I'm here to tell everyone else you need to repent if you want to be saved, all right? In that way, he came for sinners. People still don't understand that either. And they said to him, why do the disciples of John fast often and make prayers, and likewise the disciples of the Pharisees, but thine do eat and drink? And he said to them, wherewith shall I liken the men of this generation, unto what are they like? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling one to other, saying, we have piped unto you, and yet you have not danced. We have mourned to you, and yet you have not lamented. For John the Baptist came neither eating nor drinking, and you say, he has a devil. And the Son of Man comes eating and drinking the fruits of the earth, and the milk of the flock, and the fruit of the vine. Doesn't say meat there, milk, but no meat. Behold, a glutton and wine bibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. So he's saying no matter who comes, you're not happy, right? You don't understand. Can ye make the children of the bride chamber fast while the groom is with her? So he's saying the people, my disciples, they don't need to fast while I'm here. Fasting is for people who are lamenting and people who are making petitions to God. I'm the Messiah, basically, I'm here, and he's trying to tell them that he's the Messiah, but they're not hearing that bit, right? Okay, and he spoke also this parable unto them, saying, no man put a piece of new cloth upon an old garment, for then the new agreeth not with the old, it won't match, and the garment is made worse. He's right. And no one putteth a new wine into old bottles, or else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles would perish. but new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. None also having drunk old wine straightway desire new, for they say the old is better. But the time come when the new shall wax old, and then the new shall be desired by them. For as one changes old garments for new ones, so do they also change the body of death for the body of life, and that which is past for that which is coming. So it was custom in Palestine, it's an asterisk, right? It's a reference, it's a footnote. It was the custom in Palestine to use the skins of animals to hold wine as we do glass bottles, and such leather bottles, when filled, were liable to burst by reason of fermentation of the wine that was within them. So what do you think? Is that a reference to reincarnation? I would liken it more to transmigration, myself. And again, we get this trans word. Nobody wants you to know what it really means, spiritually speaking. We have all these people that have changed. Could it possibly be due to mass transmigration? And it was just a time for that because it's cyclical. I'm not sure what I believe. I know it seems to be a possibility for at least one type of being. So, of course, I want to make sure I understand the gospel as well, and redemption, and how to go about that myself and participate in my own salvation. The sending forth of the 72. Okay, that's when he sent forth more people with the gospel. Okay, they're talking about the Trinity and stuff here too, but we're not going to... It's interesting the word is used for how old this writing is. Lection 21, which means section 21, page 28. This is Jesus rebukes cruelty to a horse. He condemns the service of mammon, right? So let's see what the service of mammon is too. And it came to pass that the Lord departed from the city, capital C, and went over the mountains with his disciples. And they came to a mountain whose ways were steep, and they were found a man with a beast of burden. But the horse had fallen down. It was overladen, and he struck it till blood flowed. And Jesus went to him and said, Son of cruelty, why strike the beast? See thou that it is too weak for its burden. Meaning you put too much stuff on it to carry. And don't you know that it suffers? But the man answered, and I'm translating some of that because it's Old English. It's saying suffereth and thou and thee. I'm trying to make it easier for anyone that cares to listen to understand what's being said. And you know, it can get a little tongue-tying too. Okay, so son of cruelty, why would you strike the beast? Can you not see it's weak for its burden? It's too small for what you put on it. Don't you know it suffers? But the man answered and said, What do you have to do with it? What hast thou to do wherewith? What do you got to do with it? I may strike it as much as it pleases me, for it's mine own, and I bought it with a goodly sum of money. Ask them who are with thee, for they are of my acquaintance, and I know them. So he's saying, the people with you, to some of the disciples, we know each other. They can vouch for me that this is my horse and I paid for it, right? So what's the problem, basically, is what he's saying. And some of the disciples answered and said, Yes, I know it, Lord. It is as he said. We were there when he bought it. And the Lord said again, Can you see not how it bleeds, and hear not how it wails and laments? It was crying. The horse was crying. But they answered and say, Nay, Lord, we hear not that it wails and laments. Wow, and that's his own disciples saying, No, we don't hear it. The Lord was sorrowful, and he said, Woe unto you because of the dullness of your hearts. You hear it not, how it laments and cries unto the heavenly Creator for mercy. But thrice woe unto him against whom it crieth and waileth in its pain. Wow, he just cursed him because he said 3 times, thrice. He said, Thrice, what you put out there to this animal, let it be done to you. Ooh, that's some big words. So the Lord was sorrowful when the disciples didn't understand that the animals were crying out in pain. And he went forward and he touched the horse, and the horse stood up and its wounds were healed. But to the man he said, and this is in red, "Go now thy way and strike it no more, if thou also desires to find mercy." So he's saying, you better go now. Get out of here. If you want mercy, don't do that again, right? Show it mercy now that it's healed. You go on your way. You're going to be without this horse now. You don't deserve it. You don't need it. Go. And seeking the people come unto him, Jesus said to his disciples, because of the sick, I am sick. Because of the hungry, I am hungry. Because of the thirsty, I thirst. That's like him saying, when you feed the homeless, you're feeding me, right? When you go to visit a prisoner in jail, you're visiting me, because that's what he said. Go visit me when I am in jail. See me when I am in the widow. Feed me when I am in the hungry, right? He's saying, I am all these people. See me in them and them in me. Treat them as you would me, okay? And he's also saying when he heals somebody, he takes on that disease in some way. That's the exchange. And seeing the people come unto him, Jesus said, he also said, I come to end the sacrifices and feasts of blood. And if you cease not offering and eating of flesh and blood, the wrath of God shall not cease from you. Even as it came to your fathers in the wilderness, who lusted for flesh, and they eat to their content and were filled with rottenness, and the plague consumed them. Remember Walking Dead? Remember how there's truth in movies and truth in shows? What did it tell us a few years before all this started? Tainted meat is what Walking Dead said. Tainted meat. It's funny how the term corona, and then if you add the virus, it's very similar to carnivorous, right? You got to make these connections. These people don't play fair. So he's saying right here, because all the prophets say this and nobody sees it, or they don't teach it and nobody questions it. Nobody reads. Nobody reads anymore. If you want to know the gospel, you have to read. And he says it's so simple a child would understand. And most children, when they're small, do no harm. They're very innocent. They're very curious, right? But they don't want to eat meat. It has to be forced on them. I was that way as a child, and so was my child. But I thought I was doing the right thing by, encouraging it and keep giving it to him in different ways to try and get him to eat it. And I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong. He also said, I come to end the sacrifices and the feast of blood, and if you cease not, if you don't stop the eating and offering of flesh and blood, the wrath of God will not cease from you. Why do you think America's the way it is? Why do you think we have so many problems and it's so problematic here? And I say unto you, though ye be gathered together in my bosom, his disciples, if you keep not my commandments, I'll cast you forth. If you keep not the lesser mysteries, who shall give you the greater? Right? So he's saying, if you can't understand the things that are obvious, right? That are in your face, why should I teach you the concealed things if you're not getting this part right? You just saw this man beating this horse. You didn't understand that its vocalizations were because it was suffering and in pain. If you can't see and hear that and know to do no harm in that way, then how can I tell you of these deeper things? It says, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. He that is unjust in the least is also unjust also in much. So he's saying, basically here, like I always say, everybody's guilty. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. He that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. So he's saying the smallest infraction leads to a bigger one. And you are no less guilty for doing a small one than a big one. He's not saying they're the same like Protestants teach. That's not what he's saying. Because some infractions are absolutely worse than others, right? But usually it starts with these smaller ones that then snowball into bigger things. And you know that just from bad habits. Most of us feel that way. Okay. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the mammon of unrighteousness, who will commit to your trust the true riches? Okay. And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? Right? So he's comparing this here to mammon. He's saying, you guys don't even do that right. Like, you're not even sacrificing to the false gods in the right way. You're not keeping that. So if you're not keeping that, how can you keep the true gods, right? If you're not treating the forgery right, why would you treat the genuine article right? No servant can serve two masters. And there, he says that. Because again, these seem to be elaborations of things that we have learned, and a few new things, obviously. No servant can have two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. And the Pharisees also, who were covetous, heard all these things, and they derided him. Again, mammon is relating to material wealth. And he said unto them, ye are they which justify yourselves before men. He's talking to the Pharisees. He's saying, you're justifying yourselves before other men, but God knows your hearts, right? He's saying you can say everything all you want. Doesn't make it true. Just because you say you're good doesn't make you good. Just like the guy that didn't want to give up his riches, the rich man that didn't want to help the poor. It's the same thing. So, and he said unto them, ye that which justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is an abomination in the sight of God. He's saying, you're justifying yourself to other men. He's saying to God, that's an abomination. The law and the prophets were until John. Okay? Since that time, the kingdom of God is preached. And that's another reason. I don't want to say this in a disrespectful way, but if you think of John the Baptist, right? That's kind of why Christ let him sit in jail. Most people are like, why didn't he go get him? Why didn't he spring him from jail? It was John's time, right? One chapter was ending and the other was beginning. And John the Baptist knew this. And Christ did him a prop by submitting himself to be baptized. Everyone's like, well, why'd Christ get baptized? Because he had to. He has to set the example. If he's going to tell us to do something, he's going to do it too. God is like that. Most people don't see it, but God is like that. And being a parent has helped me understand God a lot more. That has really changed things for me. Okay, so. But it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than one tittle of the law to fail. Then there came some women to him and brought their infants to him, whom were still, it says suckling, they were very small, that he should bless them. And some said, why trouble the master? But Jesus rebuked them and said, of such will come forth those who shall yet confess me before men. And he took them up in his arms and blessed them. So he's saying these children, some of them will be my followers. They know the gospel, right? And that's also another way of Jesus saying, don't turn children away from me. Don't do such a thing. Then they'll take them to mammon, right? The restoration of Iarius' daughter. Let's see what else we've got here. What time are we at? I'll go a little longer. It's at 88. I should stop it now. Jesus and the Samaritan woman. I don't really want to. We're trying to look for new bits that we haven't heard yet first. And we are going to go to Christ's childhood. Jesus, this is lection 24 or section 24. Jesus denounces cruelty and he heals the sick. As Jesus passed, and again, I'm reading things that pertain to things we're seeing currently happen and letting you know how Jesus would feel about it. I weary, honestly, of people blaming God for the things that are going wrong in our world. We have free will, we have sovereignty here, and we are allowed to make our own choices. And so a lot of the things that we have seen come to pass are coming to pass because we have sown them, right? You reap what you sow. So it says, as Jesus passed through a certain village, he saw a crowd of idlers of the baser sort, and they were tormenting a cat. Thanks for the hearts, which they had found and shamefully treating it. And Jesus commanded them to desist and began to reason with them. But they would have none of his words, and they reviled him. Then he made a whip of knotted cords and drove them away, saying, wow, Christ did this. The earth which my father, mother made for joy and gladness, you have made into the lowest hell with your deeds of violence and cruelty. And they fled before his face. But one more vile than the rest returned and defied him. And Jesus put forth his hand, and the young man's arm weathered, and great fear came upon all. And one said, he is a sorcerer. And the next day the mother of the young man came unto Jesus, praying that he would restore the withered arm. And Jesus spoke unto them of the law of love and the unity of all life in the one family of God. And he also said, as ye do in this life to your fellow creatures, so shall it be done to you in the life to come. I'd rather go through it all now. I don't want the next life to be worse or as bad as this one. I want it to be better. It's whatever, in whatever life, whatever form that takes, because some of us are still learning and deciding where we stand on certain things. The young man believed and confessed his sins, and Jesus stretched forth his hand, and his withered arm became whole again. And the people glorified God, who had given such power unto man. And when Jesus departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, do you believe that I am able to do this? Belief is very important and key. They said unto him, yes, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, according to your faith, be it unto you. According to your belief, all right? Because faith is belief without sight. And their eyes were opened, and Jesus straitly charged to them, saying, see that you tell no man. But they, when they departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country. Which he knew they would anyway, right? So now we know what he said about cruelty, at least in one sense. We're going to go see what's coming next. Sermon on the Mount. God, I love that. We're not going to read that right now. It's too long. But I'd like to see if any of it's, different, or if the language that they use when they translate it is any different. Sermon on the Mount, part 3. Wow. Jesus releases the rabbits and pigeons. Let's check this out since this is our theme today. Section 28, since we already talked about the Apaches and being good to the land. And let's hear Christ talk about creatures and being good to them. And that includes us being good to each other. Jesus releases the rabbits and pigeons. This is page 37, section 28. It came to pass one day, as Jesus had finished his discourse, in a place near Tiberias, where there are 7 wells, a certain young man brought live rabbits and pigeons, that he might have to eat with his disciples. Jesus looked on the young man with love and said to him, thou hast a good heart, and God shall give thee light. But thou knowest not that God in the beginning gave to man the fruits of the earth for food, and did not make him lower than the ox or the horse or the sheep, that he should kill and eat the flesh and blood of his fellow creatures. Ye believe that Moses indeed commanded such creatures to be slain and offered in sacrifice and eaten, and so do ye in the temple. But behold, a greater than Moses is here, and he come to put away the bloody sacrifices of the law. Wow. And the feasts on them, and to restore to you the pure oblation and unbloody sacrifice, as in the beginning, even the grains and the fruits of the earth. Hold, please. Talking about the timeline and what time we're in. If Christ is already, if this is true, I'm not saying it is, but if it's true, if Christ is already trying to encourage people to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah, which says in the end times, in the very end, people will not eat animals, right? And the animals will not eat each other. We will all be in peaceful agreement with each other to not be doing this, right? And it will just happen naturally. If that's true, and Jesus is already trying to impart this upon people, it's very possible some of us, like here in this time, the reason things seem to be repetitive and the reason things seem to have gotten so strange in like 2012 or 2018, like we have the dates a little different for each of us. What if it was seamless? What if, Christ told the guy on the just bear with me for a minute. I want to give you a theory. Christ told the one thief on the cross that he would see him that day in paradise, but everybody always argues, well, there's this that happens and that happens and this. Christ gave him, let's not talk about purgatory. Let's not even assume it's real. But heaven, hell, the next life, whatever. Christ told him, I will see you this day in paradise. Because when you pass, even if you are dead for 100, 200, 300 years before the resurrection comes upon all man, and, it would be seamless, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it kind of be seamless? He's telling him, you don't have to go through none of this. You're going to go right to paradise. I'll go with you. What if there is that death sleep? What if some of us are the resurrected and this is our second chance, our last chance? And that's why we feel like we're in the wrong time and, things seem to be repeating and I've already done this, right? That's wild to me. Okay, we're going to move along. We're not going to do that one right now. We are going to save this. The bread of life and the life-giving vine. We're going to keep going a little bit. Okay, so I think we're getting into the Eucharist here. Section 32, God the food and drink of all. I think that's Eucharistic based. Section 33. Oh, wow, that's ironic. Because check this out. It says, Lection 33. By the shedding of blood of others, there is no remission of sin. Jesus was, and again, please understand, the controllers want us corrupted. Whether they are supernatural beings, whatever you believe, those in control want us corrupted. That's what they want. We are spiritually blind when we are that way, but we also feel we work for them, right? Jesus was teaching his disciples in the outer court of the temple, and one of them said to him, Master, it is said by the priests that without the shedding of blood there is no remission. Can then the blood offering of the law take away sin? Jesus answered him, No blood offering of beast or bird or man can take away sin, for how can the conscience be purged from sin by the shedding of innocent blood? No, it will increase the condemnation. Hold here so I can translate for anyone that doesn't understand. Christ is saying that it does not matter what type of blood offering you make, whether it's a sheep, a beast, a pigeon, a fish, or another man. There is no blood sacrifice that will take away your sin. Why? Because your heart, you won't get a new heart that way. Think about it. And he's right. Think about the Pharisees. Think about the Jewish people who still do this time immemorial. They think that by shedding the blood of some innocent animal, they are putting the sin then on that animal, on that blood offering. Most of us know there's something wrong with the gospel as it's been taught to us. We just know. Something else, because there seems to be something wrong inherently within the church, within every church. There's something corrupt. And they want us corrupted. There are certain things I can't say just because, again, people have to find certain truths for themselves. They're just not ready to hear certain things yet, so I have to be careful what I say. But he has said this before. This is what he was doing in the temples, guys. Think about it. In the temple, this is what was happening. People, you're taught it's money changers, that's the problem. But I would say it was 2 or 3-fold. Just follow me for a second. In the temple, right, there are money changers. What are the money changers doing there? Well, they're selling. They're banking. They're changing. What are they changing the money for? What are people giving money for and receiving? Animals. They're receiving animals. They're receiving animals to do what? They're paying the money changer inside the temple. They're paying the money changer for this animal that they are going to take home and kill for God to remove their sin. Christ is telling you. And this is the whole New Testament, right? The Old Testament was carnal. The New Testament is spirit-driven. The Old Testament, and just because something is in the Bible doesn't mean it's being promoted. We have to read between the lines, and we have to read it ourselves, because even some of the teachers out there are not understanding. Some of them are corrupted. Some of them do it intentionally. But some of them just don't know. Because the more you do this type of thing, the more blinded you become. And most people in the church are co-signing on this right now. And they're saying that Christ came to die. He had to die. I'm sorry, but the way in which the gospel has been inverted in that way is satanic. Christ came to show us how to live right. And yes, maybe how to die right. And he also came to show us that death is not permanent. It's not a permanent space. We don't dwell there forever. It is a transition. It is a doorway. It can be painful and a learning experience, but it is not an end. This is why it matters so much how you treat yourself and others, because it's not the end. So in the temple, Christ got so mad because they were buying animals to then take home and kill for God for things they had done wrong all year. If God is just, you tell me how that's just. Making other animals die for our bad behaviors. How's that just if God is just? And this is, again, all these misunderstandings are why people hate and blame God. The people who knew what they were doing and are misteaching a lot of this, the ones who know what they're doing, they're going to be in big trouble. Like, it is also the time of the illumination of conscience. I don't know if you've noticed how many people are repenting and changing and going to like vegan, and just all these different things are happening in people right now. It is a great and horrible time to be alive. But most people are having their conscience opened up to them at this time, and that mirror held before them, and they are seeing their own filth. So Jesus answered, "No blood offering of beast or bird or man can take away sin, for how can the conscience be purged from sin by the shedding of innocent blood?" Christ's gospel, the gospel, is all about loving one another. How can you love one another? How can you receive that new heart to love your enemies if you're ending the life of other innocent beings and expecting that to pay for your sin? Because people are still doing this, and they're still trying to drag people back to the Old Testament ways, even with Christ. That's a curse. We are told more than once, you will be cursed if you try to do that. We're not there anymore. The priests indeed receive such offerings as reconciliation of the worshippers for the trespasses against the law of Moses. But for sins against the law of God, there is no remission. save by repentance and amendment. So he's saying the laws of Moses, that's the priests are receiving offerings for the breaking of Moses's law, which will be the 10 Commandments. But sins against the law of God, which the law of God, if you love everyone and you love yourself and you love everyone like you love yourself, which is the whole of the law basically under Christ, you're not going to do most of those things anyway. It is not written in the prophets, put your blood sacrifices to your burnt offerings and away with them, and cease ye from the eating of flesh. For I spoke not to your fathers, nor commanded them when I brought them out of Egypt concerning these things. But this thing I have commanded, saying, obey my voice and walk in the ways that I have commanded you, and you shall be my people. He's saying, is it not written in the prophets, put away your blood sacrifices to your burnt offerings, and put away with them, and cease from eating of the flesh? For I spake not to your fathers. And most people will say, don't sacrifice to false idols. We're not supposed to be doing it at all, period. Sacrifice your living life. Sacrifice your bad behaviors. Sacrifice the things you love that are sinful because they're hurting others. Like I sacrificed, right, my eating of bacon, which used to be an old favorite of mine. I put that up and sacrificed it for God and said, here, I'm giving you this thing that I love because I know it's bad, right? But I love it. That's why God says he prefers obedience to sacrifice. He doesn't want you to sacrifice something that you love. He doesn't want you to love sin. But most of us, because we've disobeyed, end up loving our sin. And that's the problem. That's why people get mad at vegans and vegetarians. They don't want to have any type of adult, mature, loving discourse. They only want to argue and debate because they know, they can feel it in their heart, but they're resisting. Lennon, wear AI later. Bye. Okay. They want to shut us up any way they can. I'm reading the gospel, yo. So. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and check something else out here real quick. And be aware that there's a lot of fake things going out to people right now at this point in time. That warning I got the other day was a fake warning. It wasn't actually real or from YouTube. They just want to get you to stop reading what you're reading. I'm just so over it. Okay. So he's saying, did the prophets not say, put your blood sacrifices to your burnt offerings and away with them and cease from eating of flesh? For I spoke not to your fathers, nor commanded them when I brought them out of Egypt concerning these things. But this thing I commanded, saying, obey my voice and walk in the ways that I have commanded you, and you shall be my people, and it shall be well with you. But they hearken not, nor incline their ear. And what doth the eternal commandment you but to do justice, love, mercy, and walk humbly with your God? He's saying, what else would you be commanded? This is your eternal command. Is it not written that in the beginning God ordained the fruits of the trees and the seeds and the herbs to be the food for all flesh? But they have made the house of prayer a den of thieves, and for the pure oblation with incense they have polluted my altars with blood, and eaten of the flesh of the slain. But I say unto you, shed no innocent blood, nor eat no flesh. Walk uprightly, love mercy, and do justly, and your days shall be long in the land. Think about some of that, though. Is it justice for us to end the life of another so we can live? We're not told anywhere that that has to be done, and we can live without doing that. Plenty of people live vegan lifestyles. We can live. It's not a necessity. Why are so many Christians and Catholics thinking that it's okay to have no compassion or mercy or love in their hearts, and do harm to animals. It's not okay. The corn that groweth from the earth with the other grain, is it not transmuted by the Spirit into my flesh? The grapes of the vineyard with the other fruits, are they not transmuted by the Spirit into my blood? He's talking about the Eucharist again. Let these with your bodies and soul be your memorial to the eternal. In eternal, by eternal, he means God. In these is the presence of God manifest as the substance and the life of the world. Of these shall ye eat and drink for the remission of sins and for eternal life to all who obey my words. Interesting. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, of which is called Bethesda. Bethesda. And having 5 porches, in these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the waters, the stirring of the waters by the angel allegedly, which would heal them. For at a certain season an angel went down into the pool and troubled the waters. Whosoever went first into the waters was made whole of whatever disease he had. And a man impotent from his birth was there. And Jesus said to him, Bring not the waters healing? And he said unto him, Yes, Lord, but I have no man when the water is troubled to put me in. And while I am trying to come, another steps down before me. And Jesus said to him, Arise, take up thy bed, and walk. And immediately he rose and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. And again, the Sabbath was made for us, not us for Sabbath. And people still want to argue about the date. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Again, they just want you in competition, because divisiveness and competition can create and promote hatred. Anything to corrupt our hearts, guys, and our temples, which are our bodies. I'm going to bounce now. It's cold in here. I got to figure something out to get a little warmer, put some more pants on, move around some. We had read about the angel, but apparently the only one that's healed is the first person who goes in the waters that are troubled by the angel. Why do you think that is? Because they're not clean anymore, right? They wouldn't be considered clean. Why? Makes me wonder, like, what is in the water when it's moved around that heals a person? Or is that when it's troubled, that's water fresh water from the spring, and the fresh water is most healing because it hasn't, touched another living being or whatever? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I've always been a little... We read that a while back, and I'm still trying to let it marinate and figure out what it means. Okay, I'm going to bounce. It's cold. You guys have a blessed day. Please keep up with Sammy and I in the shorts. I love to show God's kingdom, which is the earth and all its animals. Have a blessed day. I love you. Please try to love somebody else and show some mercy and compassion.